Good morning, SDA Academy. Welcome back, seniors and elites. This week, what we're going to do is just have a quick recap as to what we did last week. After the recap, we're just going to have a quick look at the 3 questions we have. Okay, so question number 1 is, what speed requirements does your sport have? Number 2, why can a combined training model help develop your speed? And then the last one, what muscle makeup is best for speed athletes? At the end, I'm just going to have a quick look at what is required for you guys to do for us for next week. So just a quick recap. Okay, we've got the GAS principle that we spoke about last week. Okay, so the general adaptation syndrome. Remember importantly that there were 3 stages: your alarm phase, your resistance phase, and your exhaustion phase. So if you can remember the graph, when you do some training, the body goes to the alarm phase, which means that it is in shock. Okay, the fight or flight response, adrenaline. Okay, so it goes down. Okay, so the body is in shock. Then the body's going to resist as to what we're going to be doing. Okay, it's trying to push you, or it's trying to rewire the body to get back to normal and what we call homeostasis, right? Then remember, if we carry on for too long, we get our exhaustion phase. Our second question that we looked at last week is, what was the difference between bilateral and unilateral training? So remember, bilateral, we're using 2 limbs in a particular movement, and unilateral, complete opposite, we're using a single limb within a movement. And the last one was, what is the difference between maximal and sub-maximal training? So maximal training, we're looking at 90+% of our work rate, or our 1 rep max. And the same goes for the sub-max. You're working from 75 to 90% of your work rate, or what we call a 1 rep max. Okay, so this week, first question, what speed requirements does your sport have? So firstly, what is speed? So if you look at the scientific explanation for speed, it's distance over time. Okay, so how much distance can be covered in the shortest period of time? If you're looking at it in your sporting terms, it's all about rapid limb movement. Okay, so how rapidly your limbs are moving, either on the ground or whether or not you are throwing something. It's how quickly, or what is the speed of the movement that you are conducting. How quickly you do it is how fast it is, right? Then what we're going to look at is repeated sprintability, okay, or your speed endurance. So being able to sprint at high velocities or high speeds repeatedly over time, okay, which creates a speed capacity. Okay, so you want to create a capacity, meaning you being able to do it over and over and over again. Okay, so a lot of the time, different sports will require different repeated sprint abilities. Okay, so for rugby, for example, will be completely different to what tennis will be. And tennis will be completely different to what ice hockey would be. Okay, so we just got to always look at the types of our sport. Okay, what sport are we playing, and what speed requirements do we need within that sport? Okay, then we're going to look at your max velocity, or your max speed. All right, so you want to be able to hold maximum velocity, or your highest speed possible, for the longest period of time. Okay, so most sports, you will have to accelerate to your max velocity and try stay there for as long as you possibly can. Okay, especially if you're a 100-200 meter sprinter, you need to be able to hold your max speed for as long as you possibly can, and you want to get there first. Okay, with rugby, for example, if you are most positions, if you are a winger as well, that you want to be able to sprint along the side, hit max velocity as quickly as you can, which will enable you to score a try. Then we've got your high acceleration. Okay, so being able to go from a complete standstill to maximum velocity in the shortest period of time. Okay, so obviously the quicker you can accelerate to get your max velocity, the better that is. The quicker you get there and the longer you're able to maintain that will mean that you are able to beat others that aren't able to do that. And why can a combined training model help develop speed? So if you look at a couple of components of speed, we've got power, we've got strength, we've got our plyometrics. A lot of the time your plyometrics can fall under your power movements. Okay, so if you look at the pictures, there's a guy pushing a really heavy sled. So that is a form of strength training. If we make that sled a little bit lighter and we ask him to move a little bit faster, can be seen as power training. Then the bottom picture is a guy doing a couple of box jumps or even drop jumps. Okay, so he's doing a plyometric exercise. Now, if you combine these components of speed, if you have within your program, you have a little bit of a strength emphasis, a little bit of power emphasis, and a little bit of plyometric work, this can all translate to a nice high speed or speed training to be able to develop our speed. Okay, and the way that it does this is we're working on our similar energy systems and very similar muscle fiber types. Okay, so to go into that a little bit further, we go, what muscle makeup is best for a speed athlete? So we've got 3 different types of muscle fibers. Your first one is your slow twitch, is type 1. Okay, normally your slow twitch is you're thinking about endurance type sports. Okay, so the amounts of energy and the different energy system that these muscle fibers use is completely different to what the others will use as well. Okay, so type 2A, they are fast twitch red fibers. Okay, so if you look at the second picture, they are white muscle fibers and there are red ones. Okay, so the more red, if you look at all the way on the left, the more red there are, the slower the athlete is going to be. He's more of a distance runner. Okay, so slow twitch also having a lot of red, so oxidative muscle, oxidative components. Then we look at the second picture, we've got a lot more white in these pictures. So we've got a little bit more of our type 2B fast twitch white fibers. Okay. Then ideally you look at your sprinters. Now this will be like your Usain Bolts, your Johan Blakes and Tyson Gays of the world. Okay, these guys will have a high amount of your fast twitch white fibers. Okay, and they'll also have our fast twitch red fibers and possibly some, and they'll definitely have some slow twitch fibers as well. But they have the muscle makeup that they'll have will be predominantly our fast twitch white fibers. Okay. Now, requirements for next week. I want you guys to find the difference between our type 2A and our type 2B muscle fibers. Okay, I want you to list, there's going to be a lot of differences. I've already explained a small amount. I want you to find a lot of differences between the two. Okay, so you got your type 2A, remember, is our red muscle, fast twitch muscle fibers, and our type 2B is our white muscle fibers. Okay, and then I want you guys to write down your sport, okay, and write down which muscle fibers you would predominantly use within your sport, okay. And then at the end, we've got a practical that I want you guys to do. Hope you guys enjoy. I look forward to seeing the work that you have for us. Have a good weekend.